Hello YouTube, Ethan Thomas here for another segment of my series of videos on the bolt action rule set. So tonight I wanted to look at some rules for tanks that we didn't see in the previous video. So let's cover a tank shooting on infantry. So to illustrate this combat, we have the German player with a Stug that has a heavy anti-tank gun, a coaxial medium machine gun, and also a remote medium machine gun. Whereas the American player has a squad of 6 that is behind a hardcover sandbag wall. Now let's say that the German player has just drawn the dice and he's given the fire order to the tank to fire upon the American squad. We've got 3 weapons, like I said, the main gun, the coaxial medium machine gun, and the remote medium machine gun. Because the German player will decide to actually fire with its main gun, that means that the coaxial medium machine gun won't be able to be operated. It's either one or the other. The other thing is, the German player can declare one target with one weapon and another target, for example, with the remote machine gun. Therefore, if I had another squad here of American soldiers, I could actually fire upon them with the medium machine gun and fire upon the first squad here with the main gun. Now let's say that the German has declared both weapons onto this squad here. Now the target, or the American player, can now decide to react. And this is not just because it's reacting to the tank, but any unit or any infantry unit can always react when being fired upon, as long as they haven't received an order dice. So in this case here, the Americans don't have an order dice, so they could actually react and go down. By going down, this means that this unit is harder to hit. Also, when experiencing high explosive hits that we'll see in a couple of minutes, this would mean that it would cut those hits by half. Now that the defender has reacted to being fired upon, the German player has to declare what type of round will be in his main gun. Either anti-tank, that's good for shooting vehicles, or high explosive rounds, that is great for attacking infantry. So in this case here, the German player declares having a high explosive round in the main gun. So now let's look at the rolls that we need to actually hit. Because the Americans are behind hard cover and they went down, that means it's -2 for the hard cover and -1 for the down order. So I need 6s. So 4 dices for the machine gun, and I get 2 6s. And 1 dice for the main gun, and I get a 4. So that means there's 2 hits. The American infantry suffers 1 pin, and I now roll for casualties. Casualties being 4 up because they're regular infantry. And I get a 2 and a 1, so that means no casualties. Now let's look at what would have happened if the actual Americans couldn't have reacted to being fired upon because they, for example, had been given a prior fire order. Now let's resolve the combat in this case. So again, we have the medium machine gun here with 4 dice. So the 4 dices at 5+ because we only have the cover, or the actual hard cover, of -2. So that I roll the dice and I get 1 hit. So that means automatically that the squad has 1 pin. And in the case of the main gun, I need also a 5+, and I get a 6. Now, the main gun being loaded with a high explosive round, and in this case here, a D3 high explosive round, this means 2 things. First, that the unit here will suffer a D3 total number of hits, and also on the casualty roll will suffer a +1 on the roll dice. Therefore, let's roll the D3, and I get a 5. So a 5 means 3 hits. So let's look at how many casualties the Americans will actually suffer. Let's start with the main gun. We said that we had 3 hits. Therefore, we need 3 ups. The regular infantry here has a 4+ to actually suffer a casualty, but because of the HE +1 modifier, we get 3+. In this case here, we've got 2 casualties. Now we had one hit with the medium machine gun, and I rolled a 4 on a 4+ that I needed because they're regular infantry. So that means that there are actually 3 Americans that die. And now this unit has to roll for a morale test because 50% of its numbers have suffered casualties.
Over in infantry! A lot of infantry!
The other rule I wanted to cover tonight is what happens when an activation for an order dice is failed upon a morale test with a tank or a vehicle. So in this example here, let's say for example I give this tank a fire order and it already has 1 pin, so I need 8 and less to actually activate it. And for example, I get a 10. So this means I failed the morale test, and what happens? Well, actually what happens is that before the unit goes down, it has to do a reverse move. And the reverse move in the case of a tank or a vehicle is always half the distance of an irregular advance. So an advance move is normally 9 inches. So in this case here, I would actually move the tank backwards 4.5 inches away from the enemy and then put the order dice as down. So that's it from me for tonight, and hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks.